This past Monday, Arab media outlets reported an explosion in a compound in southern Baghdad that contained weapons and other munitions, which experts say were being used by Iranian forces in Iraq. This comes after Iranian security officials have warned the U.S. and Israel that they're on the verge of an even more serious conflict with Iran and its allies. Well, joining us to discuss the ramifications of this conflict with Iraq and Iran is senior security and military analyst Colonel Olivier Rafowicz, who's also Knesset candidate for the upcoming elections, and Dr. Martin Sherman, the founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you both so much for coming in. All right, so we can assume that Iran has been involved in Iraq for many years now, but what has caused American and Israeli forces to take action now? Of course, Israel has not confirmed that action has been taken, but...
I don't know if Israel actually is involved, like you just mentioned now, but it's clear that Iraq is now a big problem for all the area, of course for the Israelis, but also for the Americans, the Brits, and all the forces from the coalition against Iran. And Iran is not only using Iraqi soil to develop military infrastructures and military, I would say, militias, Shiite militias. They are using also Syria and Yemen and Libya, even Morocco now, in order to establish military infrastructures against Western interests and against, of course, Israeli interests. So what is now going on in Iraq is very worrisome for many reasons, because we are now facing not only militias but also weaponry and actually ballistic missile being put on the Iraqi soil. What happened last week is of course very positive, because it's not very important who is behind the attack or the destruction. Maybe it's even an accident or incident by forces on the soil of Iraq. But it means that there is no big danger, because the Iranians are actually developing and even, I would say, trying to involve other countries and getting close to Israel. From our side, just one last word, from our side, we will not keep quiet if the Iranians are continuing to develop military infrastructures and getting close to Israeli borders.
Okay, so and one of the things that I want to ask here was, Israel has obviously gotten involved in preventing the Iranian presence in Syria, but Iraq is not on Israel's border. So for some, it is a bit surprising now that Israel is taking, if these reports are confirmed, but Israel is now taking a role in combating that Iranian presence there.
Well, I suppose what dictates Israeli action is the nature of the threat more than actually which side of the border it's on. And if Israel has the operational intelligence, which points out that this is going to be a threat, and finds that it has operational necessity and the operational ability to address the threat, I don't think there's any reason why it shouldn't be. I think the Iranians have taken heavy punishment in Syria, so they might be trying to move the focus of some of their activities.
Well, that's where the question comes in then, what would the impact be if Iran were really to establish a strong base in Iraq, because it isn't on Israel's border at the end of the day.
Why would that make any difference? I mean, if it's within Israel's operational range and it is a threat, why would the fact that it's not on the border make any difference? Israel bombed the Iraqi nuclear reactor a couple of decades ago. It wasn't on our border either.
We are facing now a total dislocation of Arab Sunnite states in the area. Iraq is not a state anymore. It's an area divided in different parts. That means that it's easier for Iran to establish military infrastructures, but also it means that, like in Syria, like in Iraq, like in Libya, big powers, but also Israel, have to find the abilities, the operational abilities to go very far in order to protect our interests, or like the Americans or the Brits, to protect their own interests. Why? Because when there is no state anymore, so there is a kind of no clear situation, military situation, and it's also a good pretext for Iran, for Hezbollah, for Hamas, for other dangerous or devile countries to just to install their own facilities. That means that Israel today is not only the Israel that has been known in the last 40 or 50 years ago. Israel now needs to be able to to address these threats very far from the borders.
All right. So another thing that I'd like to talk about is just the fact that, Iran, again, there are threats towards both the U.S. and Israel saying, both countries are on the verge of a very serious conflict. These threats are often made. Is there any difference in terms of what is happening right now?
Well, I think it might be a sign of Iraqi desperation, because I think that the key to long-term stability and a long-term solution to the Iraqi nuclear threat is how biting the sanctions are going to be. I think it's also the appalling mendacious dilemma that the Obama regime presented the world with. Either this bad deal that they made or war has been exposed, because Trump has reinstated the sanctions. They are causing a lot of damage to Iran, and there's been no war yet. So I think the key to bringing about a long-term solution to this is how resolute the West will be in imposing these sanctions on Iran.
But also the situation is also making something very new in the Middle East. It means that the big Arab Sunni countries like the Saudis, like the Emirates, need also to look at Israel as the American as real protectors for their own interest against the Iranian threat. I mean that the Middle East now is actually shaping itself in a new way, and I think it also, I believe, will fit the American deal of the century proposed by the administration of Donald Trump to use this new situation where the threat of Iran is so alive, making that these countries with Israel, with the Americans, with the Brits are actually building even like a natural coalition against this threat.
All right. Well, we've run out of time. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Okay.